Hello and welcome to Uncovered, the podcast with your host, Jason Irving. Join me in a journey to understand what's truly happening in your world and the world around you. This is not about how you're living life on the surface. It's about what's truly driving you from under the covers. I'm going to take you on a journey to deeply uncover the reason why you are here, the ultimate purpose in your problems and the way that they have shaped your life up until now. See, I believe you have a purpose, and your problems are the highway towards ultimate realization of that journey towards freedom and the reconnection of your true self. I've been told I have a different spin on most things, and I'll be giving you my understanding of life, love, and what we're all here for, purpose. To get the best out of this podcast, drop what you already know so you can discover what's beyond you. So join me, let's play this game of life and bring on liberation, transformation, and change. Let's do this.
Hey Jason, how are you today?
Yeah, pretty good. Welcome to Uncovered, guys. We're going to be focusing on love today.
Awesome, that'll be interesting.
It is probably one of the most important emotions that everybody is searching for. It's what we all come here for, typically. We're all searching for love. And typically we're searching for love in all the wrong places in the beginning most of the time. Mm-hmm. Is that your experience, Billy?
Oh yeah, totally. So I was going to ask you, so how does the world usually typically look at love?
I think what we do is we look at love from the fairy tales. Mm-hmm. So we're looking at this experience where someone else outside of you is going to supply it. Mm-hmm. So we're taught that the only way to find love is through somebody else. Mm-hmm. And I think this is the major problem that we have, is that through childhood, most people's childhood experiences with parents are not necessarily the most loving and not necessarily the best sort of idealistic way in which we need to experience love. So what we do is we go and have our childhood experiences, and then we're looking and searching for this love from somebody else. And that's the journey. I know I've done that. I was looking for someone to love me, mm-hmm. and it didn't work.
Yeah, I've experienced that too.
So what we've got to learn to do is find that love within us. It's a cliche. You've probably heard this, guys, many, many times, that you need to find it inside of you rather than look for it outside of you. And I think it's easier said than done, because we have all of these subconscious programs around love. So when I would work with people when I was a healer and in the academy, I'd find out a whole bunch of distorted views around love. So usually we have all of these belief systems that cover over love. Mm-hmm. And we don't really know what to do to find it inside, simply because all of these belief systems are giving our lenses a sort of a dirty picture of what love is. Mm-hmm. So we go and watch a movie like Sleepless in Seattle. Is one of the classic movies. Maybe you don't. Do you know that movie?
I know that movie. Dirty Dancing would be another one.
Dirty Dancing. So we're looking at these things where this situation happens, and we find this person, and it's the only person that is going to find that we're going to find love with. Mm-hmm. And that is probably the biggest mistake, is that we're looking for it from that one person. It's like this quest and a search. So then when we have a relationship and we're in the beginning and we're in the throes of the beginning stages of a relationship, we might fall in love with someone. I think we're actually falling in love with the spark, mm-hmm. not necessarily the person. Because over time, we find that there are problems with our partner, and then we're looking for and searching for something. And then quite often what people do, because I've been working with people for a long period of time, is that people will start searching outside of themselves again, mm-hmm. whether that be through work, whether that be through exercise, whether that be through food, to find that love again, mm-hmm. That's been missing. So I believe we need to understand love from both aspects, and we're going to talk about hate in the next podcast after this, which basically is the same energy on the other side. Mm-hmm. So we need to find a balance. And so once we find that balance, we become okay. Because I'll talk about this in the next podcast, but hate is a very, very common thing that we have, especially after relationships split.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So people often think love and fear are the main emotions that exist. They're not polarities that exist in this particular thing. Love and hate are the same energy, just in different spectrums. So how do we find it?
Yeah, well, like, how do you look at it?
Well, look, I think it's hard. I think it's very similar to peace in lots of ways. They handshake. Love and peace actually handshake with each other. What we need to do, in my opinion, is learn to love all the things that we feel are unlovable inside, that we don't want anyone to see, and all the things that we see in the world that is unlovable outside of us. So there's this great example of this guy, this Islamic guy. I was listening to I was watching a showcase called Conversations with God with Morgan Freeman, and this particular Islamic guy was really focused on his faith around his particular faith. And the thing that happened in his life is that he had someone kill his son, and they wanted money. He was a pizza delivery guy, his son, and they killed him to get the money for the pizza that he had, right? The thing that was really amazing was he forgave him like a son and loved him and hugged him at the court.
Wow.
So this guy blew me off the park. Normally you would hate and vilify this person, and he, because of his richness in his faith, he couldn't do that. So he loved what was unlovable. And how many people, I don't know whether I could do that.
No, I definitely couldn't.
So to have that absolute richness, to be able to love what's unlovable, to have your son killed and actually love and forgive the assailant, that's love. And that blew me off the park, watching that, understanding that a person like this is not based on faith, this is based on a person who is beyond most people's comprehension. And I think we need to learn to be able to do this. So as a healer, I spent a lot of time accepting emotions that other people couldn't accept. Disgust, despair, all the hate, all those emotions. And what I realised through that acceptance is very close to love. It's basically saying it's okay for you to be in pain, and that you can actually love what is unlovable inside of somebody else. And it's a challenge, because love forces you to work on yourself. It's not something that just appears out of nowhere and stays. It forces you to unravel. So it's a conquest. So every single other emotion has been split off from love. And so when we become what people call in spirituality or development enlightened, love is the result of working with all our unfinished work and feeling comfortable that we have overcome this planet, the desires, the issues. We're responding, we're able to love every person that comes along our path, no matter what. And when we can do that, love is what we embody. And it's not based on a thing, it's not based on another person, it's actually the all-encompassing connection to God. It's the best way I can explain it. It's intangible in lots of ways. Very few people own it. Very few people can actually know how to be with it all the time. It's elusive, and it's something that we have to continually work on to find love consistently. So what people do quite often is they're looking, if they're in the right setting, love exists. If they're with the right people, love exists.
Yeah.
You've got to be with people who you can love even if you don't agree with them, even if they're doing the wrong thing, and you can love what is unlovable. And that's hard.
Yeah.
Right? So that's why most people can't actually hold it and make it tangible and make it real, because we have certain rules and regulations around love. And there's one thing that absolutely irritates me the most is this word unconditional love. It irritates me more than anything, and the reason why is it's not possible. Love is meant to have boundaries, it's meant to have structure, it's meant to have clarity in this world.
Yeah.
Unconditional love exists on another plane. It doesn't exist in this one. Because anyone who's given unconditional love, and that's what they do, every person that told me they do that, they have an absolutely shitful life. Because they're getting beaten up.
Because they don't stand up for themselves.
Well, Ophelia, if I punched you in the face right now, would that be okay?
No.
There has to be conditions around what's okay for love to exist. There has to be rules and regulations around how we can be kind and caring to our fellow humans to actually have love. So it has to have rules and regulations and conditions that it needs to meet. So if we're looking at love, it's like, how can you be able to be the better person in all situations and not be angry and all of these things that we do around it. And it's not about, so on the extreme level on this planet, I don't know where we got to there.
Oh, we had a little break due to flat batteries and that. So, one question that I've got for you though is, how do you go about the whole loving yourself and accepting yourself thing? Like, is there a specific way that you would suggest for people how to do that?
Look, I think it's got to be different for everybody. I can't really give anyone a set menu for this. This everybody is unique. So, as an example, if I said to you that you needed to talk to people, and you're not the type of person that is open and loves talking to people all the time, you're gonna say, well, that's not for me. Right? So it is an internal thing, and it's also a collaborative thing. So we've got to know how to find it in all situations, and it's different for everybody to find it. I think it's a unique thing. I know that a lot of people, we meet someone, we feel this spark or we feel something, and this beautiful feeling sits inside of our heart. I don't know whether that's love. I just know that that's a feeling that people get, and we create a tangibility to that, and we decide that that is it.
Yeah.
So I'm not so sure around what to do around this, because we look at it as the good things. It's those good moments.
Yeah.
And love's all encompassing. So how do we have love in the tough moments? That's what we've got to learn to be able to do well.
Because it isn't always easy, and butterflies and rainbows and all that stuff.
And so what we do is we go, okay, anything that is not butterflies, rainbows and great is not love.
And has to go.
So we remove all the other emotions, and we're looking for this particular one, because this is the golden chalice. It's like the holy grail of emotions that we're searching for. And look, it is the holy grail. It's the one. But the thing is, as I said before, it's all the pieces of all the other emotions to create wholeness. It's like the return back to wholeness. So as we develop ourselves and work on ourselves more deeply, love becomes a result of change, right? And Anya and I talk about this in our relationship courses, that we don't come together for love. We come together to actually work on our problems together in a relationship of intimacy. It's all got mixed up with this whole stuff around the movies and the fairy tales. And I believe, and so does Anya, that love is the result of working on the things that are unfinished in your relationship.
Oh, yeah. It makes such a difference. I think a lot of people just end relationships because they're like, oh, it doesn't really feel this nice anymore all the time type of thing, so it must not be the one. I better look for something new and then get this exciting new spark again, which then goes away again, so new relationship again. So people don't actually are willing to put in that effort and to like commit to something, and the result is actually such a deep love.
Yeah, it is, and it really comes down to putting that work in. I'm not saying, guys, that you should stay with someone who is really unhealthy for you. There are times where, yes, it does have to end, and I think what's really important here to communicate is that if both parties are willing to work on themselves, then the result of love will be there.
Yeah.
You have to be willing to work on the relationship, and if it's only one, then it's a problem.
Yeah, it's not going to work then.
It's not going to work. So you and Cody getting married next year, and we look at your astrology, and you can actually see people who have high levels of love, and you guys actually have a really good relationship.
Yeah.
It's better than the standard of people on this planet. You're very, very lucky that you've found each other, because you've got to work on your relationship even if it's good quality.
Absolutely, yeah.
And at the end of the day, that framework's good, right? Whereas there are some people who have really, really crappy numbers with each other, because you can actually see it in a number system. It goes out of 44, like, is the highest number, and very few people are above 22. So when you guys are above 22, and it's good, because it means that you've got more connection to be able to get that relationship working. So one thing I suggest that you guys do is that if you're single, you've got to work on yourself and work on your relationship to yourself and what matters, and set some really clear boundaries about what's okay for you, how you eat, how you exercise, all the things that you do. Are you doing things that are love-based? Would you do the things that you're doing and consider them love-based? And if you are, you're doing good. And if you're not, you have to work on them to get some help, maybe, to get them changed. And then if you're in a relationship, you've got to really help people with their contracts. That we have a relationship course. If people want to find out what that is, we'll post that in this podcast as well. If you want to get some information on how to actually get a better relationship going, if you're in that couple base, you gotta stop looking at the whole thing around sex, and you got to focus on, love and sex are not the same. So when people think that I have really good sex, that means that's love. That's not love. Love is the little things. It's the questioning. How are you today? And really wanting to know the answer. It's being considerate. It's asking how someone feels and really caring about what they're feeling, no matter how it affects you, what they say. It's the sauce bottle moments. How you hand the sauce to your partner. How you hold hands. Right? How you talk to a fellow person. Now, one thing I really am passionate about is hierarchical-based love as opposed to love. So what people do, and most people do this, and I'm sure you guys understand you probably do this too, we hierarchy our love. So we say, okay, you and Cody gets more love than I do. Now, love doesn't work that way. Love should never, ever work that way. But what we do is we hierarchy our love. So then we have our kids. I have kids. So I should give my kids more love than I should give you, Philia. That is not how love works. These are doing things that I'll do more for my kids. Love is different. I supply love equally to you as I would my kids. A reverence and a care. I would never ever supply less love to you because you are not part of my DNA family that I've created. That is one of the biggest mistakes that we make, is we put our little group of people and we decide these guys deserve more love from our heart than other people. That's not okay. That's not what love's about. And this is one of the biggest misnomers. Love is actually very, very different, and it is not asking you to separate yourself from other people. It's not asking you to divide. It's not telling you that someone else's opinions, the fact that it's different, you should dislike them. Love doesn't do that. Right? So when you understand how difficult that is, think about how difficult just what I just said there is. To actually not base it on who should get more of it, who should get less. Love does not ever supply itself that way. It's meant to be given freely to all people. So I remember a guy who was, a lady who was getting beaten up by her husband. And I said, you need to maybe leave this man. And I supported her and showed her love and care, and love equaled abuse to her, physical abuse. And then the man came. I'm the abuser. And what do you think my role was? My role was to judge him and tell him he was doing everything wrong. I loved him just as much as her. They stopped beating each other simply because I wasn't here to tell him that he was wrong or bad. He was here to be loved because there was a reason for him hitting and there was a reason for her being hit. I didn't judge what was right or wrong. I supported and loved them both, and it stopped. See, this is where things are different. So people would say, okay, the beaters, they don't deserve anything, and the victims, they need some love. But really, why? We need to actually know how to love properly, because if we start creating this, these guys deserve this and these guys deserve that, love doesn't do that. Right? So a person who understands going to God, people go to church so they can get forgiveness for their sins, right? So they can find love again. That's actually the reason why they go. They want to get love again for the mistakes that they've made. So we need to internally understand that from an internal perspective, that if we judge and say this person did this wrong so they get nothing, we have to have consequences, don't get me wrong. We've got the boundaries, we have to have all of those things. We can't just say, I hate you because of your decision making that you do. Because that's really unhealthy for us as humans. We're going to keep dividing and divvying up our love based on rules and regulations that decide what's okay for us. And it's a challenge, guys. This might be triggery for you, hearing this. What is this feeling like for you?
Yeah, very different, and like, I'm just like, I don't know if I could do that.
Yeah, well, that's why love is challenging. It's not easy because it has no... It's an energy that requires us to hold it in its true form, and most people can't. That's why we have problems in this world, because we divide and conquer as opposed to create wholeness and understanding. And love is about that. It creates divide and conquer. So imagine, and this has happened many, many times, you love someone. There's a lady who I know very, very well that she says, if someone is warming that feeling, and you have that warm feeling with someone and you're not with that person intimately, what is wrong with that? If you're not touching them and you're not doing the wrong thing, that's good. Right? It's very normal to be attracted to other people and feel that love. I love everyone that comes along my path who are in the academy, and they don't know what to do with me. Right? Really, people don't know what to do with the love that I give, and then they go, oh, it's not about sex, it's not about this. All he's doing is being a really good guy, and he's loving everything that I can't. Right? And I give everyone that love. I never walk away and say, okay, that person deserved less of that today. And that's challenging, I think.
Yeah.
And we've got to figure out how to work with this thing called love, because if it gets too much, and people have killed other people out of love, that's called obsession. That's not love. That's called jealousy. That's not love. Right? So when we have to own our partner because someone else looked at them the wrong way, and my wife is a very good-looking lady.
Yeah,
right?
that's true.
So every time she walks down the street, every man stares, right? And if I was a jealous, obsessive person, I'd feel uncomfortable and I'd want to fight with her around everyone staring at her. She's beautiful, so people look, and I have no problem with that. If I was insecure and I had love in a distorted based way, I would be trying to put her in a place and say, you need to put some more clothes on, or whatever I need to say it's not okay for you to be looking beautiful in the world, right? But I don't, because Anya's a person who happens to be beautiful, who everyone stares at.
Yeah.
And that's normal for people who are beautiful. I'm not like that, so I don't get stared at when I walk down the street. So I understand and comprehend absolutely beautiful people, what they have to deal with all the time, always getting stared at, so they shut down. But that's not love. We're looking at beauty there.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So when I look at people and I see the colour, when I ask about love, it's pink. That's the colour that I see when I look at people, and it's beautiful. And that's what I see when I see people in their essence of love. And the trouble is, a lot of it feels like they can't reach it, they can't grab it in, they can't become it on the inside. You know, due to body dysmorphia, whatever people do when they come to trying to love themselves in a better way.
Wow. So it can be challenging, but it's also really rewarding in the end.
Yeah, it's the most important emotion. It's the way towards reaching the pinnacle of who you are, basically. And if we can reach that, all of us, if we can start reaching that together, this world will become a different place.
Very different.
Imagine if everyone loved themselves right in this moment, took one breath and actually learned, and it stayed. What would the world be like? We wouldn't be trying to grab something from someone. We wouldn't be trying to own someone. We'd be full. So the job is to fill that bucket up more and more and more. This world would turn into peace.
Yeah.
Love and peace would handshake together, and this world would be a different place. And you can see we're so far away from that right now.
Oh yeah, so far. So that's kind of like an ideal world in a way.
Yeah, it's not the real world right now. So people who have that love bubble with a partner, that's a problem. That's called enmeshment. Right? You need to be able to supply that love to everybody, and that's what we need to learn to be able to do. And it's a concept, guys. It's not reality right now. It's trying to get that ideal and turn it into real. And I don't have the answers as to how we can do that. I just know that if we keep working on ourselves and become better people, we'll find love as the result. And that it's not meant to be just given to one person. It's meant to be shared with all. And this is what I love about kids. You know, that's what I love about what they do. They have this. They don't have the hierarchy because they don't know what hierarchy is yet. They like one of my best friends in school was part Australian, part Nigerian. So he was caramello looking. He was very, very beautiful looking man, and him and I used to roll around in the schoolyard playing. I was white as the ace of spades, and he was this beautiful black man. Right? I'm not sure if we're allowed to say even that word because everything's a bit screwed up these days. I didn't know that I was meant to be against him in rules with racism. He was Kirk. Right? There was no separation, and kids don't do this. They're not built on racism. No one is. We're built on love. We're not built on this stuff that exists as we get older, bigotry and bullshit that people do.
Yeah, that's just learned behaviour.
It's
really.
learned behaviour. So how do we unlearn it? We have to figure out how to unlearn it as we become adults and try and figure that out. And it's challenging because we have struggles with this every day. Someone disagrees with us and we get upset, right? Oh, now I feel bad, right? How do we find that love? And it is a challenge, guys. So this is an open-ended one today. I don't think there's a full answer here. around how to achieve it, how to be it. The only advice that I can give you guys is to keep trying to find that within you, so then you can supply that all around you, not with just one person.
Yeah, I like that as well.
Yeah.
So cool. Well, thanks so much for the chat.
An absolute pleasure. Hopefully you got something out of this and it wasn't so convoluted or too idealistic or too difficult for you to hear. Now, if you wanted to see this podcast, our website is www.wellnessbreakthroughacademypodcast.com, and if you really like this podcast, I'd love you to share it and review it. Just let us know what you think. It would be really handy to know what you think about this one. Happy for people to challenge me on this. It's a challenging one to bring up, I think, as well.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks.
Thanks.
You.